What's up, guys? We are back. We got another scenario review here for Macedonia. This is the second of 3 in our trilogy. So we're taking a look at refused flank today, and this is a really interesting one, especially for the Macedonians. So another really powerful mission that favors them so much. So as normal, both players have the same amount of denarii. The enemy player is going to be the defender. Macedonian player is going to be the attacker. That's kind of a theme here with pretty much all their scenarios, and you can kind of see it's a kind of a funky deployment here. So the defender divides their army into 2 flanks, left and right, each comprising the same number of units, and if there's an odd number of units, the spare is placed in the right flank. Then they deploy all their models into those 2 deployment zones, and then the Macedonian player deploys theirs, and then they have the first phase as well. So again, another really strong setup, as we like to talk about whenever this happens. So anytime you see what the enemy's doing, it's great, and then you get to deploy afterwards, and especially when you get to go first as well, that just leads to some really strong potential for you there, especially depending on how mobile and aggressive you are, and maybe if the enemy didn't quite deploy right either. So yes, they are divided slightly. There's a little bit of a gap in their deployment zones. Now if they're smart, they will kind of try and deploy as close together as possible, as opposed to really just separating themselves so far. But on the other hand, they could also go for an extreme flank if the Macedonian player gets a little too aggressive there. That being said, again, Macedonian player being able to go first with distance there, so they can certainly get across the board pretty quickly and set up for a potential turn 2 charge. Turn 1's fairly unlikely, unless you can really pull some shenanigans with your like cavalry movement and heroes and other things like that. But there's no special rules for the scenario here, and then this is really just a kill 'em all mission, just with a slightly weird deployment. So it's pretty simple overall. Again, you as the Macedonian player are going to need to do what you do, which is really just march up. You got your pikemen, most likely, hopefully some cavalry as well, and then you just kind of take it to the enemy. And again, first having that first turn for sure lets you get up into a nice solid position where, again, you should really try and push that flank. So then if the defender has left their flank, that left flank relatively weak, you might just churn through that, but then you'll run into their strong part of their army, and so you're going to really have to get as much done on turn 1 as possible as far as preparing your next few turns of movement and reacting to what the enemy might be able to do. Now, of course, if you can win the initiative and go first turn 2, you should be able to get some solid charges, especially if you're running some cavalry with appropriate cavalry heroes. That's going to be very deadly and very tough for the enemy to deal with. Unless, of course, they have some really solid and tough infantry. A lot of Roman units, of course, other pike, or not pike, but necessarily, but spear phalanxes, stuff like that with the, other Greek armies, things like that. So it's not just going to be a pure cakewalk, but if the enemy is leaving that left flank vulnerable, you can very quickly get up there and mop a lot of things up with your cavalry units, again, if you're being very aggressive, which will give time for your infantry to catch up to, and then kind of box the enemy into that other flank and keep them from maneuvering too much. And then you should have just a numbers advantage at that point. That being said, if the enemy is smart, they shouldn't deploy too far apart between the 2 flanks, and if they do get the second turn, rather than going out to necessarily meet the Macedonians, the left and right flanks should try and combine and link up somehow to then sort of form a more solid battle line to deal with the Macedonians. So that being said, too, though, the Macedonians could go for sort of a very long left flanking maneuver around this side, depending on what the enemy's doing, just to give them something to think about, too. But again, it all depends on game size, forces involved, and all that stuff. But overall, just a very simple, easy mission for the Macedonians here. Yeah, I mean, again, pretty much favors them, although there's not really any special rules beyond the setup, so it can still be a fight. So don't get, again, too aggressive, too arrogant in thinking this is all going to go your way. But if you're consistently able to win the initiative and stay on that and stay aggressive, it's going to be pretty tough for the enemy. So but lots of interesting things here, and just a great little, again, slight variation on that generic kill 'em all mission. So a little bit of deployment shenanigans, but yeah, at its heart, still a kill 'em all mission. So hope you guys enjoyed here. Drop some comments. Let us know if you've tried the scenario, what your results have been, so on and so forth. Look forward to hearing from you guys, and if you could, again, drop us a like, maybe subscribe if you haven't already, and hope you guys have a good one. We will see you in the next one.